There are lights in the night sky that dance with a grace so quiet they seem to be part of a dream. They ripple in green and violet veils, flickering and shifting with a rhythm that cannot be hurried or explained. They are older than memory and yet feel intensely present, like something whispered in a language of silence. These are the Northern Lights, or Aurora Borealis, and this story follows them gently across the globe. In each place they appear, they are known by different names. They carry stories passed from ancestors to children, from song to snowfall, from wind to wandering. They are seen not just with the eyes, but with the spirit. From frozen lakes to mountain ridges, from ship decks to forest clearings, the lights have always found people who watched and wondered. This journey will visit those places, slowly, softly, under a blanket of stars and folklore. This story begins in Canada, where the northern skies open wide, and the aurora glows like a brushstroke across snow and silence. From there, it follows the light as it drifts across continents and cultures, through myths and memories, always moving gently toward rest. Let the rhythm of the aurora guide your thoughts like a lullaby, and allow yourself to be carried into sleep by a sky that never stops dancing. Welcome to Bedtime Travel Stories, where soothing tales and gentle narrations take you on a tranquil journey through the world's most enchanting places, right from the comfort of your bed. Unwind and travel with us as we explore the globe one story at a time, helping you relax and drift into a peaceful sleep. Far to the north, where the Canadian wilderness unfolds in wide ribbons of pine and snow, the aurora moves like breath across the sky. In the winter silence of the Northwest Territories, the stars seem closer, the air more crystalline, and the darkness more complete, perfect conditions for the sky to speak in color. The Dene people, whose ancestors have lived on this land for thousands of years, call the Northern Lights Yamoria's Trail or the Sky River, believing them to be traces of a great spiritual being who once walked the earth. The lights are not just a natural wonder, they are sacred, woven into the stories and cosmology of those who have long listened to the land. Yellowknife, perched on the northern edge of Great Slave Lake, is one of the world's best places to view the aurora. Its latitude places it directly beneath the auroral oval, and the region's long, cold winters provide a reliable canvas for celestial activity. Most travelers arrive by air, flying in over a vast stretch of frozen wilderness, dotted with dark lakes and pale rivers that gleam under the snow. As the aircraft descends, the modern city appears, quiet, compact, and framed by the enormity of the northern wild. And above it all the sky opens expectant and immense. Evenings begin early in the north, with the sun vanishing before most dinners are served, but those who come to see the lights wait for night to deepen, layering on wool and thermal wear, stepping out from lodges and inns, moving slowly beneath the weight of warmth. Some head to dedicated viewing platforms, where guides offer hot tea and quiet stories around a small fire. Others venture farther onto the lake's frozen surface or into snow-covered boreal forests, to find places untouched by artificial light. Out here, the silence is complete, broken only by the crunch of boots or the whisper of wind against snow-laden branches. And then the lights begin, not always suddenly, but with a faint shimmer, like breath on glass. A pale ribbon of green, stretched thin across the stars, begins to move. It curls and flows, then flares brighter as if awakened. Sometimes a second ribbon joins, then a third, twisting and folding upon one another in an ethereal dance. There are nights when purples bloom along the edges, and rarer still, hints of deep red or a silvery blue. People lie back in the snow, mouths parted in wonder, as the aurora draws silent patterns in the dark. Among the Dene, the aurora is deeply rooted in story. One telling speaks of Yamoria, a legendary lawgiver and shapeshifter who tamed the land and brought peace to the people. The Sky River is his trail, a glowing reminder of the path he still walks in the heavens. Others describe the lights as spirits of ancestors, dancing, celebrating, keeping watch. There are teachings that warn against calling out to them, especially with whistles or shouts, as doing so may draw their attention too close. These beliefs are not told with fear, but with reverence, a reminder that the sky is not just above, but part of the world's living story. Inside the lodges, fires crackle in stone hearths and steam curls from mugs of strong tea and cocoa. Guests return in small groups, their cheeks ruddy and eyes wide with the dazed wonder of children. Some flip through camera rolls, trying to recapture what they've seen, though the images seem dull compared to the memory. Others simply sit, speaking softly or not at all. A guide named Leah, born and raised in Yellowknife, tells her group about the times she saw the lights shimmer so brightly they illuminated the snow as if it were day. She shares a memory of her grandmother who used to say, "The lights are listening, so let them hear silence." In the early hours, the aurora gradually fades, receding like a tide pulled by unseen hands. The sky deepens into a velvety black speckled with stars, and the chill grows sharper, more insistent. Most have already returned indoors, lulled into sleep by the show, but a few linger, watching the horizon, waiting to see if just one more ribbon will rise before dawn. They tuck their hands into mittens and their chins into scarves, breathing steam into the cold. The snow beneath them glows faintly in the starlight, and the memory of the sky's movement lingers like a song just ended. Morning in Yellowknife is slow and blue, the kind of light that feels like the hush before music. Outside, snowdrifts shimmer in the pale sun, and boots crunch softly along packed trails. The aurora is gone, hidden beyond the curve of the earth, but its presence lingers, etched in conversations over breakfast, in the distant look of a traveler staring out across the lake. In this place, the lights are not an event. They are a part of life's rhythm, as enduring and intimate as wind through spruce or stories shared beside a fire. And so, in the heart of Canada's north, the journey begins, not just into geography, but into meaning. The aurora is both a sight and a story, a moment and a memory, and for those who come to see it here, it becomes something else as well, a gentle invitation to listen deeper, to feel smaller, and to carry a piece of the northern silence wherever sleep may take you next. In the far north of Norway, where the land stretches into the Arctic Circle, the sky often burns with color above the frozen coastlines and snow-powdered peaks. Here in the region known as Finnmark, the Sami people have lived in harmony with the rhythms of nature for centuries. To them, the Aurora Borealis is Govsahas, a word meaning the light you can hear, but more poetically, it's said the lights are stirred by the swift motion of a mythical creature, Revontule, or the firefox, its tail brushing the snow, sending sparks into the heavens. Many begin their journey to Norway's auroral zone by flying to Tromsø, a small, vibrant city nestled between mountains and water. Known as the gateway to the Arctic, it's a place where adventure and stillness coexist. Visitors stay in timber lodges with wide windows facing north, or in glass-roofed domes that allow them to fall asleep under shifting veils of green. From Tromsø, guided excursions venture farther, into valleys, over snowy hills, or out to sea, seeking skies untouched by city lights. To the Sami, the lights were once a mystery to be respected. Children were warned not to wave, point, or whistle at them, for fear the spirits of the lights might swoop down and snatch the curious. In some stories, the Aurora was seen as a bridge between the living and the dead, or as a reflection of ancestral energies moving across the firmament. Hunters and herders watched the lights not just for beauty, but for signs, clues carried in their flicker and flow. Out on the snow-covered plains away from the towns and roads, the silence is immense. The air feels cleaner, thinner, sharper. Visitors dress in reindeer hides and thermal layers, their footsteps muffled beneath them. Some gather in lavu tents, traditional Sami shelters warmed by wood fires, where coffee brewed over coals is passed around as stories are told in calm, musical voices. The glow of the fire dances along the canvas walls, echoing the dance above. And then the lights come. Sometimes they appear all at once, bursting into the sky like a symphony. Other times they arrive shyly, as faint wisps that slowly gather strength and shape. The green is most common, soft, pulsing, alive, but blues and purples often follow. On rare occasions, crimson arcs flicker low on the horizon, startling in their intensity. The firefox runs fast on those nights, and its tail leaves behind rivers of fire. Boats bob quietly in dark fjords, where reflection doubles the wonder, Aurora above, Aurora below, both alive in the mirror of the water. Snow rests gently on rooftops, fences, and trees, undisturbed, and all around, eyes lift skyward, held in the spell of something that seems to transcend language, time, and even belief. In these moments no one speaks. They only watch. In Sami culture, storytelling is not confined to books or classrooms. It is shared through the joik, a form of song that expresses emotion more than narrative. Some say the aurora itself is a joik, a silent song in the sky. That idea lingers long after the lights have faded, as guests return to their cabins and the air grows still once more. The firefox vanishes, the sky quiets, and the memory of the dance remains in the hush of the night. Morning brings the smell of baked rye and the sound of snow brushing from rooftops. The Aurora has gone for now, but it has left behind something gentle, an understanding perhaps, or a shared quietness. In Norway's far north, the lights are not just a spectacle. They are a presence, a guide, and for the Sami, a reminder that wonder and wisdom live side by side in the endless sky. In the deep, snowbound stillness of interior Alaska, where the boreal forest stretches beneath towering mountains and the long nights settle in like a heavy quilt, the Aurora rises like breath from the land. From Fairbanks to the Arctic Circle, the lights appear with wild grace, curling across the sky in slow spirals and sudden bursts. Among the Inupiat, Yupik, and Athabascan peoples, the lights are more than beauty, they are beings. To some, they are spirits of the departed, dancing in joy. To others, they are messages from beyond, swirling signs that should be honored and observed with respect. Many visitors begin their journey in Fairbanks, a small, quietly bustling city framed by spruce trees and long, flat rivers that freeze solid each winter. Its clear skies and dry climate make it one of the best places in the world to watch the Aurora. Just outside the city limits, lodges and cabins dot the hills, their rooftops covered in snow, their windows aglow with anticipation. Some guests choose glass-domed igloos or hillside yurts where they can sleep beneath the northern lights without ever leaving their beds. But the most intimate viewing often comes from the open air. Snowshoes crunch over hard-packed trails leading into the wilderness. At the summit of Cleary Summit or along the Chena River, people gather under blankets with thermoses of tea and cameras poised. The air is biting, the kind that pinches your nose and stills your breath, but the cold fades into irrelevance once the sky begins to move. What starts as a faint shimmer blooms into great arcs of green that undulate like silk in water. On rare nights they swirl low enough to feel almost within reach. Among native Alaskan communities, stories of the Aurora have passed down in quiet voices beside fires and under blankets. The Yupik say the lights are spirits playing a game, perhaps soccer, with the skull of a walrus or caribou. Others speak of ancestors who dance in the sky, lighting the path for those still on Earth. There are beliefs that whistling at the Aurora invites them to come closer, perhaps too close, and so watchers remain still, wrapped in silence, hearts open but mouths closed. The Aurora is not a spectacle here, it is a presence. Local guides, many of them descendants of these traditions, share stories with reverence. One tells of his grandmother, who said that when the lights moved quickly, it was because the spirits were celebrating. When they moved slowly, they were searching for someone. His voice is low, nearly drowned out by the rustling of trees and the distant howl of a wolf. Yet everyone leans in. It's not the words, but the rhythm. The Aurora has a rhythm too, though it changes each night, sometimes pulsing like a drumbeat, sometimes sweeping like a sigh. Cruises along Alaska's coast rarely see the lights, as cloud cover is common there, but inland the sky opens like a great page. In remote towns like Coldfoot or Bettles, far above the Arctic Circle, guests arrive by bush plane and settle into quiet lodges where generators hum and the snow squeaks underfoot. At night, the entire world seems paused. No traffic, no chatter, just the distant creak of trees and the steady flicker above. The sky in these places feels closer, more ancient, like it remembers things even the mountains have forgotten. Back in Fairbanks, the University of Alaska's Geophysical Institute tracks aurora activity, predicting when and where the lights will appear. But even science offers only part of the story. Locals know that sometimes the lights come with no warning at all, as if responding to unseen voices or tides. There's a sense here that nature is not something to be measured. It's something to be listened to, like an old song, its meaning shaped by mood, memory, and moonlight. And as the night softens toward dawn and the lights retreat into the north, those who've watched them, whether from yurts or hilltops, snowdrifts or lodge windows, carry the glow inside them. In Alaska, the aurora is not just overhead, it's within. A quiet wonder that moves through the air, through the stories, and through sleep. In Iceland, the aurora unfurls above a land that feels almost mythical in daylight, where moss-covered lava fields stretch like ancient maps, and steam rises quietly from the earth. At night, the sky becomes a canvas for deeper magic. The northern lights are called Norðurljós in Icelandic, but among old tales and quiet traditions, they are sometimes thought to be the glow of Huldufolk, the hidden people, revealing themselves in a dance only the patient and pure of heart can see. These unseen beings, said to live in stones and hills, guard the balance between the natural world and the spirit realm. Most journeys to see the aurora in Iceland begin in Reykjavik, the country's compact capital, where bright houses huddle beneath windswept skies and the sea laps steadily at the shore. From here, travelers take to the open road into the countryside, to darkened coastlines, or toward inland plateaus, where the darkness grows deeper and the sky wider. Some stay in countryside guest houses with turf-roofed cabins and geothermal baths. Others sleep in transparent domes or rustic huts beside black sand beaches. The aurora can appear anywhere, but those who seek it away from city lights find the quiet that makes watching it feel like prayer. Folk tales passed down from Iceland's earliest settlers describe the lights as omens, gentle or terrible depending on their shape and speed. Pregnant women were once told not to stare directly at the aurora, lest their child be born cross-eyed. Others believed that the lights could lead travelers astray, pulling their minds into the sky and away from the safety of paths. These stories are rarely told now with fear, but with the kind of reverence reserved for the unknowable. The hidden folk are not to be angered, and neither is the sky. A favorite spot for aurora watchers lies near Thingvellir, the rift valley where tectonic plates drift slowly apart. Here, the land splits in deep scars, and quiet lakes reflect the heavens. On clear nights, people gather in hushed clusters, bundled in wool and wind-proof coats, sipping hot chocolate from thermoses and watching the sky begin to shimmer. The lights often start as a green arc over the horizon, then unfurl upward like a curtain pulled slowly aside. The silence, broken only by snow crunch or the creak of settling ice, becomes part of the experience. In the far north of Iceland, near Akureyri or the Arctic Henge in Raufarhöfn, the aurora appears with greater regularity. Here, myths of giants and ancient gods still echo in stone formations and mountain names. The sky feels lower somehow, as if it leans down to meet the watchers. On particularly strong nights, the lights ripple with layers, green, pink, violet, even yellow, dancing in sudden flares that pulse like breath. Travelers watch in stunned stillness, the cold forgotten, their thoughts stilled. Not far from the glacier Vatnajökull, ice caves and frozen rivers glimmer even under weak moonlight. A few tours guide visitors into these crystal halls during daylight, but at night some stand just outside their mouths to see the aurora reflected on ancient ice. The lights above and the glow beneath mirror one another in waves of silent color. The moment feels suspended, like time itself has paused to allow the earth and sky a moment to speak. And always there are the stories. A guide named Eileen tells hers with a kind smile and steady voice. Her grandmother believed that if you stood very still under the lights and made no sound at all, you might hear them like silk rustling across the heavens. She tried once as a girl and thought she heard something, a hum or a sigh, or maybe just the wind pretending. She tells this not as a fact, but as a gift, something to carry. As dawn nears and the glow fades, Iceland's sky returns to gray and pink, the stars slipping back behind clouds. But in the minds of those who've watched the light swirl above lava fields and silent hills, something stays awake. The aurora here is not only a show, it is a story told through the air, a path traced by the hidden folk, inviting you to slow down, look up, and remember that not all things must be understood to be real. In the far reaches of Finnish Lapland, where the air is so clear it seems to hold its breath, the aurora moves through a sky so wide it feels untouched. The Sami people here share many beliefs with their cousins across the north, and one of their most enduring legends tells of the Revontulet, the fox's fire. According to this story, the northern lights are caused by a magical fox dashing through the snowy hills. Its sweeping tail strikes snowflakes into the sky, sending sparks of green and violet trailing in its wake. The story is so rooted in the land that even the modern Finnish word for the aurora still echoes the fox's flame. Travelers often begin their search for the lights in Rovaniemi, the gateway to the Arctic, where reindeer outnumber people and thick snow softens every footstep. From there, journeys lead deeper into Lapland, past frozen rivers and snow-buried forests, to glass igloos tucked beneath silent skies. These accommodations, popular in places like Saariselkä and Kakslautanen, offer an unusual kind of intimacy. You lie in warmth, your breath slow and your thoughts slower, as ribbons of light drift above your head like a dream. The Sami people have lived on this land for centuries, and their connection to nature runs deep. Though the aurora is no longer feared, it is still treated with quiet reverence. Some Sami elders say that the lights are the energy of ancestors, and one should not speak loudly or point rudely when they appear. Others say that when the lights twist and dance quickly, they are communicating something, though only those who truly listen will understand. Stories are not always meant to explain. Sometimes they are meant to preserve silence. In the deepest winter, when the sun doesn't rise for weeks in the far north, the aurora becomes more than a spectacle. It becomes a kind of dawn. Green and violet light curves slowly across the sky, illuminating the snow in gentle hues. Reindeer herders pause to look skyward. Children tug on mittens to wave at the colors. Tourists fall still, suddenly quieted by the sweep of something so enormous and calm that words seem irrelevant. Guided aurora tours in Finland take many forms. Some ride silently on dog sleds across snow-blanketed plains, the only sound the whisper of the sled's runners on ice. Others venture into national parks on snowshoes or skis, carrying lanterns that glow like fireflies beneath the trees. There are saunas that open to the night, where guests can steam and then cool off under the stars, looking skyward with steam rising like breath toward the lights. Near Lake Inari, sacred to the Sami and steeped in old magic, the lights appear with quiet regularity. Reflected in the black ice, they seem to double, curling through sky and water in tandem. A fisherman sits by the shore with his line dropped through the ice, though he does not watch the hole. He watches the sky instead, nodding slowly, as if greeting an old friend. For people here, the aurora is not rare, but it is always new. When asked, a local woman at a cafe in Inari says she's seen the lights more times than she can count. But I still go out to watch, she adds, stirring sugar into coffee, because they never come the same way twice. She says it like she's talking about a person, and maybe she is. As the lights fade and the snow begins to glow softly in the grey light of a rising Arctic morning, the land holds its silence. Finland's forests, lakes and skies seem untouched, almost paused. The fox's tail rests, its spark spent for now. And beneath the stillness, a hush remains, a kind of peace found only in places where silence is not absence, but presence. The sea stretches endlessly along Norway's ragged coast, where fjords pierce the land like silver seams, and fishing villages glow like lanterns in the dark. Here, between the mountains and the midnight sky, the aurora often reveals itself in full grandeur. And there is perhaps no more serene way to see it than aboard the Hurtigruten, Norway's storied coastal ferry. For over a century, it has carried mail, cargo, and curious travelers between small Arctic ports, its decks offering one of the world's most peaceful theaters for watching the lights. The journey often begins in Tromsø or Bergen, but the magic happens as the ship glides silently through the northern waters, past Lofoten's jagged silhouettes and toward Kirkenes, near the Russian border. The days are filled with hushed explorations of snow-covered harbors and quiet lectures on local legends. But when the sun dips behind the waves and the frost settles on the railing, passengers gather outside, faces lifted skyward, wrapped in layers and wonder. At sea, the sky feels enormous. There are no trees to frame it, no street lamps to dim it, only the hush of water and the faint hum of engines. When the aurora begins, it often appears first as a green line along the horizon, so subtle that it might be mistaken for a cloud, but then it moves, curls, and pulses. It grows. The deck falls quiet. Conversations stop mid-sentence. All eyes lift. The aurora arcs across the sea like a bridge, trailing purples and golds, veiling the stars and painting the sky in movement. It reflects in the black mirror of the ocean, so that the ship seems suspended between two heavens. Some lean against the railings, hands wrapped around mugs of coffee or mulled wine. Others lie on benches, letting the sky fill their vision. The cold is sharp, but it doesn't drive anyone inside. Not yet. Below deck, an announcement sounds gently in the cabins. Ladies and gentlemen, the northern lights are now visible off the port side. Those already in bed stir, pull on boots and coats, and climb quietly to the deck. It is late, but no one complains. This kind of beauty does not keep a schedule. It simply arrives. Crew members, long used to the sight, still pause to look. One of them, an older sailor with wind-chapped cheeks and thick mittens, smiles softly. "Every night is different," he says. "Some are like music, some are like fire." He nods toward the sky, where a curtain of violet ripples like a silk scarf caught in a breeze. "This one's a quiet song." The Hurtigruten, with its steady rhythm and slow passage, offers a special kind of viewing, unhurried and reflective. Unlike rushed tours or crowded roadsides, there is time here, time to watch, to breathe, to feel. The ship moves forward like thought, like dreaming, and the aurora keeps pace, drawing lines of light above the waves. As dawn begins its slow rise and the aurora retreats behind the first glow of day, passengers remain on deck, reluctant to leave the moment. A few snap final photos, but most simply watch, eyes soft, hearts quiet. The sea carries them onward, but something stays behind in the sky. On the Hurtigruten, the aurora is not just seen, it is lived. It is part of the rhythm of night, the silence between ports, the hush between breaths. A gift from the sky to those who follow the sea. In Greenland, where the land rises in icy cliffs and deep fjords carve into ancient rock, the northern lights stretch across the sky like silent echoes. Towns are few and light pollution almost non-existent. The Inuit peoples who have called this place home for millennia speak of the aurora not just as light, but as breath. Arsanarit, they call it, meaning those playing ball. Some elders say the lights are spirits of the departed, passing the skull of a walrus between them in a game of joy. Others say they are a bridge, a signal, a shimmer of energy from the beyond. Travelers usually arrive by air in Ilulissat or Kangerlussuaq, where small communities stand firm against the frozen wild. The air is sharp and thin, and everything is quieter than expected. Footsteps fall softly on packed snow, and conversation often gives way to silence, as if the land itself encourages listening. Lodges here are simple but warm, with windows that face vast, uninterrupted skies. From these windows, and from the icy paths beyond, the aurora is not so much watched as witnessed. The lights often appear on the heels of fierce cold. As temperatures drop and the wind settles, the sky begins to pulse with green fire. Arcs widen above glaciers and curl around mountain peaks, reflected in ice sheets like brushstrokes on glass. There are no fences here, no highways or signs, just a sense of immensity. The aurora in Greenland feels not like a visitor, but like a host. Inuit elders tell stories of the lights as both joyous and dangerous. Children were taught to respect the aurora, never to mock it or whistle at it, lest it descend in punishment or carry them away. Some say if you whistle, the lights will come closer, and if they touch you, you may not return the same. These tales are not warnings in the modern sense, but memories carved into community knowledge, echoes of a time when everything in the world was animated by story. Guides in Greenland are often local hunters or fishermen who share stories between long pauses, letting the landscape speak as much as their words. One tells of a time he was caught far from his village during a hunt, and the lights danced for hours overhead, brighter than fire, more silent than sleep. He says he never felt alone. The lights, he believed, were watching, not with judgment, but with presence. On clear nights, tours travel to high points outside town, sledding up icy slopes, snowmobiling across frozen inlets, or walking along coastal cliffs where the sea whispers beneath the ice. One of the most surreal experiences comes from standing beside icebergs that crack and groan in the cold, as green light paints their surfaces in soft, ghostly glow. The cold is deep enough to numb fingers and turn breath to crystal, but no one complains. No one wants to leave. From the village of Tasiilaq on the east coast to the remote settlement of Uummannaq in the west, the aurora appears with a rhythm as old as the ice itself. It flares and fades, arcs and scatters, always moving, never still. To watch it in Greenland is to feel both very small and deeply connected. The stars seem to nod. The earth holds its breath. And in the morning, when the sky softens to pale blue and the lights have vanished, the memory of them lingers in the snow, in the stories, and in the stillness. In Greenland, the aurora is not an event to be sought. It is something to be met, quietly, with awe. In the far north of Scotland, where moors meet sea cliffs and the sky stretches uninterrupted above quiet isles, the northern lights are known by an older name, the Mirri dancers. In Shetland and Orkney, and on rare, clear nights across the highlands, the aurora appears in delicate ribbons of green and pink, flickering like the hem of an ancient garment. Islanders once believed the lights were a kind of celestial battle, or a sign from distant ancestors. They were both feared and admired, never summoned, only watched in silence. Most visitors begin their journey in Inverness or Aberdeen, winding their way north by road or ferry to reach the Shetland Islands or the dark skies of Caithness. Unlike the Arctic, the aurora is more elusive here. It does not appear nightly nor with the same strength, but when it comes like a sigh, gently weaving between stars. and because it is rare, it is also cherished, spoken of in hushed tones, remembered long after it fades. The best views are found in places few travelers reach, windswept beaches, abandoned crofts, and standing stones whose origins are older than written history. On the Isle of Lewis, the ancient Callanish stones stand in a circle, silhouetted against the northern sky. Locals have seen the Aurora dance through their gaps, casting long shadows that seem to move. One legend says the stones themselves are frozen dancers, waiting for the music of the sky to resume. In Orkney, some say the lights are caused by spirits sailing invisible ships, their masts catching fire in the firmament. In Shetland, the name Merry Dancers speaks to the joy and mischief people once believed the lights brought. Fishermen returning late at night might see the flicker and take it as a sign of fair weather or perhaps of caution. The lights never came without meaning. Accommodations in the far north of Scotland are as quiet as the land itself. Cottages with peat fires, seaside inns with thick woolen blankets, and small crofts turned into guest houses welcome the patient traveler. Aurora chasers watch the forecast carefully, stepping out when the night is clear, away from the faint lights of village streets. Some sit with thermoses on stone fences, others lie in the grass, scarves wrapped tight, eyes wide. The aurora here tends to be subtle, a low glow at first, mistaken for clouds, but then it lifts, a ripple, a hush, and the stars above seem to rearrange themselves to make room. It may last only minutes, but in those minutes everything else falls away, the wind, the cold, the centuries. Only the sky remains and those watching it. One Highland guide tells of a night near Dene when the aurora danced above the cliffs and a herd of red deer stood motionless beneath it as if listening. He remembers the color, but more than that, he remembers the feeling. Like the hills themselves were holding their breath, he says, as if the old gods had returned just for a moment. When the lights fade and the dark returns, the moorland and sea grow quiet once more. But those who have seen the Merry Dancers carry them like a secret. In Scotland, the aurora does not shout. It whispers, and if you're lucky enough to hear it, you'll never forget what it said. In the far northwest corner of Russia, where the Kola Peninsula stretches into the Arctic Ocean, the aurora glows above a landscape shaped by snow, silence, and stone. This is a land of deep winters and longer nights, of boreal forests and frozen rivers, where the northern lights appear like a hush across the heavens. In this region, the Sami people, the indigenous reindeer herders who inhabit northern Scandinavia and northwestern Russia, carry ancient beliefs about the sky. To them, as to their kin in Finland and Norway, the aurora is sacred, a spiritual force, a whisper of something greater than the earth. Most visitors arrive in Murmansk, the world's largest city north of the Arctic Circle. Trains roll in through snow tunnels, and airplanes descend through frost-hazed skies. From here, guided tours set out into the tundra and taiga, areas where the city lights fade and the wilderness resumes its hold. Accommodations range from simple Arctic camps to warmed cabins on the banks of icy rivers. Though colder than many other places, the reward is clarity, crisp air, open sky, and long, undisturbed darkness. In Sami tradition, the aurora is not something to point at or photograph carelessly. It is a visitor, perhaps even a relative, and one must act with respect. Some say that if you speak too loudly or laugh too freely under the lights, they might react. A few stories speak of people who disappeared during strong auroral displays, taken perhaps or simply transformed. Others say the lights are the souls of the departed, or a divine force watching over the tundra. The meanings vary, but the reverence is constant. Outside of Levozero, a small Sami village, travelers can join herders and storytellers for evenings in the snow. A fire crackles inside a traditional chum, the reindeer hide tent warmed by logs and laughter. Tea brews in an iron pot, and above, through a hole in the tent's roof, the aurora begins to rise. Someone begins a joik, a Sami chant, and though the words are unfamiliar, the tone is unmistakably rooted in the land. The lights seem to answer, curving through the sky like smoke from the fire below. Some tours venture deeper, via tracked vehicles or skis, to high ridges or lakes frozen into stillness. The air is bitter, but the stillness is profound. Here the lights often begin low, like a thought, then rise and twist into green serpents of energy that fill the sky. Cameras try to capture it, but they cannot match the motion, the subtle shimmer, the feeling. It is not a display, it is a presence. Back in Murmansk, the lights can still be seen on strong nights, even through the glow of city windows. But those who've traveled out into the cold, into the dark, into the traditions of those who've lived beneath the aurora for centuries, know that seeing the lights is only part of the story. Feeling them is another. As dawn approaches and the lights finally recede into the north, snow begins to fall in soft, slow flakes. Footsteps crunch toward the tents, the cabins, the city, and high above, the stars return. The aurora has gone, but its echo remains, in story, in stillness, in sleep. The northern lights do not stay in one place. They wander quietly and endlessly, from land to land, from legend to legend. In Canada, they are Yamoria's trail, the sky river left behind by a great spirit. In Norway, they are the firefox's path, sparks flung from a swift and unseen tail. In Alaska, they are spirits dancing above frozen forests. In Iceland, they are the slow song of hidden folk. In Finland, they are born from the fox's fire. At sea, they rise above ships like prayers cast across the waves. In Greenland, they are the soul's breath. In Scotland, they are the Miri dancers. And over Russia's Kola Peninsula, they are the sky's softest whisper. Across each place, they bring not only wonder, but memory. And those who have watched them, even for a single moment, carry that stillness within, something beyond color or motion, something that can't be captured, only felt. They remind us that not all beauty needs explanation, that some things are meant to be observed, not claimed, that silence can be full, and that the night sky in all its vastness holds a place for awe. So now let your breath slow and your thoughts quiet. Let the rhythm of the lights and the hush of each northern land guide you deeper into rest. You have traveled far without moving at all. And somewhere in the places you've just visited in your dreams, the sky is glowing. We hope you enjoyed today's serene journey and found peace in our gentle narration. Do join us next time as we make a relaxing visit to another of the world's most iconic places. Sweet dreams and safe travels until we meet again.